Well, there wasn't a whole lot of movement in last night's college football playoff rankings, but chaos could be coming in the Big Ten as rivalry weekend is here.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day, and now the number one sports podcasting network. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, thank you so much for being here. Happy Thanksgiving week as we get a day closer to the holiday. Plus, we get closer to Indiana and Purdue. We get closer to the rest of rivalry weekend, where I think chaos could be coming in the Big Ten. We'll talk about that today. Plus, how Indiana still ranked the second team in the country, as they probably should be. We've made the argument for them to be number one, but that's not going to happen unless you beat the Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship game. Plus thoughts on Indiana basketball versus Kansas State last night. The playoff rankings are out, and there wasn't a whole lot of change from last week to this week. We did see Oregon and Ole Miss flop spots, right? But nothing major has changed so far. For those of you on YouTube, you're going to see it right now. The latest college football playoff rankings. For those of you listening on audio, I'll read some of it, and you can, of course, look it up if you would like to. But Ohio State is ranked number one, Indiana number two, A&M is number three, Georgia number four, and Texas Tech at number five. And that's how it should be, right? No chaos there, nothing crazy just yet. Oregon takes the sixth spot, Ole Miss ranks seventh, Oklahoma at the eighth spot, Notre Dame 9, and Alabama at 10. Okay, so again, I say this, nothing crazy as of yet. BYU's at 11, Miami's at 12. But here's what the bracket sounds like, okay? You have Ohio State at 1, your Indiana Hoosiers at 2, Texas A&M at 3, and Georgia is at 4. Indiana, as of right now, still paired up with Alabama and Ole Miss. Texas A&M is paired up with Miami and Oregon now. Ohio State paired up with Oklahoma or Notre Dame, and Georgia paired up with Texas Tech and Tulane. And so while that's not surprising, I do think that chaos could be coming in the Big Ten this weekend due to rivalry weekend, and chaos in the Big Ten, chaos in the college football playoff, and a whole lot more. The SEC has some things to figure out. The Big 12 still trying to figure out what it's doing. I think there's an argument for Miami to not even be in the college football playoff. I think Notre Dame is stealing a bid from somebody. I think Tulane is stealing a bid from somebody. And I think this is the year where if the SEC, the Big 10, and maybe the Big 12 too said, hey, we want to do our own thing, you would probably have an argument for it. But look at some of the games that are going on this weekend. Start with the Big Ten. You've got Ohio State and Michigan, the game going on Saturday morning. You have Indiana taking on Purdue on Friday night, a game that if Indiana loses, you're not out of the college football playoff, and you're not even necessarily out of the Big Ten championship game. You would have to get some help along the way, but that would throw a major wrench into what's supposed to happen. And then Oregon and Washington. Those are the three games you need to know for the Big Ten this weekend. The SEC, on the other hand, there's a lot more going on down there. You've got Auburn and Alabama in the Iron Bowl. You have Ole Miss and Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. You have Georgia and Georgia Tech going at each other. Of course, Georgia Tech losing last week, so think they're probably out of playoff contention, but they could play spoiler for the Georgia Bulldogs. And, man, you're going to have a bunch of these 10, 11-win teams and not enough spots to put them. And that's going to be the chaos that the College Football Playoff Committee has to deal with. And their reasonings have been terrible. The committee is a joke, in my opinion. We've got active athletic directors sitting on the College Football Playoff Committee, and we've just said, yeah, you can sit in a closed room and talk amongst yourselves and have reasonings that nobody hears and make decisions that nobody can push back on. And sure, we'll send out our one, volunteers tribute person, which is Hunter Yurachek, the Arkansas athletic director right now, to be the guy to talk about the rankings and talking about Alabama's run game or trying to make a 6-7 joke on the broadcast last night. I mean, it's a disgrace to what's happening in college football, but yet we just have to sit back and deal with it. And I'm still not up or frustrated. I'm still frustrated, still not over. Okay, the idea that Indiana's just been placed at the 2 spot and hasn't been able to move up. I understand Ohio State hasn't lost, but they also haven't been tested. Their schedule's not all that difficult, and we'll find out exactly who they are Saturday morning when they go up to the Big House and take on Michigan. But folks, if they lose that game, your Indiana Hoosiers are the number 1 team in the country. Indiana will now take the spot as the top dog in college football, will go to the Big Ten championship, will be a top 4 seed in the college football playoff, and then you really start to have conversations about what you should do in the Big Ten title game. But again, that's more for next week if we get to that point. I'm saying all that to say this: we're far from over on who plays in conference championship games. The Big Ten is not the only one. The Big 12, the SEC, the ACC, they're all dealing with it. Okay, the G5 at-large team in the college football playoff is still not 100% solidified. You've got coaches going all over the place, guys who could be coaching in the playoff and going to another job or leaving their teams in the playoff to go to another job. I mean, it's fun, yes, but is this really what's best for the sport? I don't know. And most of you know that I'm an anti-expansionist. I do not think more teams is better in terms of a conference or in the playoffs. But the good news is Indiana is comfortably in pretty much everything that matters, which is the college football playoff. Now, you still have a lot of options on the table, right? You still have top 4 seed, first round bye. You still have a possibility to host a playoff game if you lose to Purdue or even lose in the Big Ten championship game and get punished for that. You could host a playoff game at Memorial Stadium here in Bloomington, or the least likely option is you have to travel in the college football playoff. The only way I think that would happen is if you lose to Purdue, you lose in the Big Ten championship game, and a bunch of these teams behind you get hot and win. Oregon sneaks their way into the Big Ten title game and wins. Ohio State I guess Ohio State doesn't matter, but Ole Miss goes on to win the SEC, or I'm looking at somebody like Ole Miss or Texas Tech and things like that. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that much chaos will ensue that Indiana has to travel in the first round of the playoff. But that first round bye is still up for grabs, which is why this Friday night against Purdue on the road, don't play with your food. Just go do what you need to do. Go take care of business. Go beat that team. They're bad, okay? They have zero wins in the Big Ten so far this season. Act like it and take that team into the ground and solidify your spot in Indianapolis and as a top 4 team in the college football playoff. I hope chaos does ensue. I hope this thing goes absolutely crazy. I just hope that Indiana's not a part of it and we do what we need to do and we get into the college football playoff as a top 4 seed with a first round bye. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we're flipping to basketball and talking about Indiana and Kansas State last night. Got some clips from our live show in case you missed that. So we talk about Indiana and the Wildcats. Kansas State came to Assembly Hall. We talk about that game coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, whether it's the NBA, college football, college basketball, you name it. They have got it. And especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Brian, it wasn't pretty, but Indiana gets the win, 86-69. Offensively was pretty solid. Defensively was incredible at times. And what a weird game. That's what we were talking about before we went live. I mean, just a weird game inside of Assembly Hall.
They finally started chasing guys on the perimeter, made it a little bit awkward for them. And even when they did mix up their switches and stuff like that, the weirdness, Kansas State couldn't throw it in the ocean there for a while if they were swimming in it in the first half. Like they were terrible.
Yeah.
And Indiana took advantage. Like they got out and ran. I was surprised. Kansas State's transition defense, a little iffy. And Indiana took it to the basket. If you take nothing else from this show, note that Indiana took it to the basket. My biggest pet peeve about Indiana this year, they just stand around, wait for somebody to shoot a three.
Yeah.
And that's probably not good. Tonight, obviously, Reed was very good, but I think Sicily's the more important one. We knew Bailey would score. He's a veteran. Sicily's scoring is massive because when young players score, they play defense.
Yeah.
When they don't score, playing defense is probably more optional. So him getting double digits, getting some dunks, getting out in transition, shooting threes, he looks comfortable. I think he needs to be one of the starters moving forward. I don't know how you do all that stuff, moving guys around, but you got to have more size on the court with the Big Ten player. You're going to get annihilated.
Yeah.
And some like the Michigan. I don't know if you saw what Michigan did today to Auburn, but
yeah, I think that just went final. Didn't they win by like 25 or 30 or something?
They were up like 46-24 or something like that. And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
So Michigan might end up in the Final Four. It would not surprise me in the least. So
yeah. Well, we're going to do likes and dislikes as we always do here on the show. We'll talk about the incredible effort that Indiana played with, some of the most effort I've seen from an Indiana team in quite some time, but sloppy on offense in terms of turnovers and still some miscommunication things. But Indiana beats Kansas State 86-69, and I think it was a gritty win, Brian. That's the way I'm describing this. Is I think Indiana comes away with a gritty win because you jump out to the big lead, right, 20-4. You're like, oh gosh, here we go. It's another just onslaught of Indiana offense, and the defense was playing well. Kansas State, you said it, couldn't find the bottom of the bucket. And then all of a sudden, late moments of the first half, they get back within two. Now, Kansas State never actually led in this game, which is something I think Indiana should hang its hat on. But the idea that you got out to such a big lead so early, and then you let that Kansas State team come back into it. You took a decent lead into the half, and then you really settled in, I think, in the second half. Indiana did on both ends of the floor. And overall, I liked what I saw, and you kind of beat me to it. The idea that Indiana shot a lot of threes. They ended up making a pretty decent amount of them, but that wasn't just their do or die, have to get a three or we're not going to score on offense. They got to the rack. Tatum Conaway was aggressive with the basketball. Love seeing that from him. I've called him the X factor all year. I think he has to be more aggressive with the basketball. I said Reed Bailey had his best game of the year. I think that's true on a quiet night from Sam Alexis. And the idea that Indiana won this game by nearly 20 points and Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson were just okay. Those all stand out to me, Brian, and tells me that Indiana is going to be a good team, have some good wins along the way, and you picked one up tonight with Kansas State.
I think they changed the stat sheet / the scouting report for all teams moving forward. There is nothing on their stat sheet or their scouting report that came in with K-State that said they're going to drive to the bucket all night. No chance in hell.
Right.
And that's why so many guys ended up in foul trouble for K-State. And why, what was it, 9+ minutes? They were in the double bonus in the second half. Like that's death knell. Because Indiana can shoot. That's the one thing they can definitely do. You get them to the line, it's probably not going to go well for you. Kansas State was just death by 1,000 cuts at that point. That, by the way, the last 10 minutes took forever.
Yes.
But Indiana, even after they got the lead, this was the litmus test, did not stop driving to the bucket. They didn't rest on their laurel. Now, they did have, what was it? They were up 20-4, and it got close there for a second.
Mm-hmm.
The final 4 minutes, they played well, better defense, passed a little better, and they started driving again. And then the end of the final 3-4 minutes of the half, and then the first 4 of the second, they kicked the crap out of Kansas State.
Yep. Last 4, first 4. We talk about it all the time.
Correct. Indiana probably won the game there because when it was 26-24 or whatever that was right there, I'm like, this could get bad. Because Indiana just was sloppy and mentally out of it for about 4 minutes, and K-State they finally hit a few shots, and hey, we can actually shoot the basketball. And then their defense picked up. Indiana started back cutting again, started driving to the basket. I think K-State is really overrated as a defensive team. Whatever they were, they're not that good because they don't communicate well and they don't help each other. And Indiana carved them apart. They had to take advantage of it, though. They had to hit shots. And when they kicked back out, they hit some threes. Enright, don't expect much from him, to be honest with you, but he drained a couple.
Yeah.
When guys like that hit shots and Sicily starts hitting shots, if you're K-State, that is not on the scouting report. It's not. Enright, if he's open, please leave him that way. I'm sure it said something to that effect, and it didn't work tonight. So great team win. Got to take that every time.
Yeah, some of the totals for Indiana before we talk about that effort by the Hoosiers. And drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments. We're going to get to those coming up here in just a little bit. As we'll do likes and dislikes after the break in just a couple of minutes. Indiana beats Kansas State 86-69. Reed Bailey led all scorers with 21. You also get 19 from Tatum Connerway. Lamar Wilkerson ends up with 14 points. And all 4 of his made field goals were from behind the arc. All of his shots were from behind the arc and went 2 for 2 at the free throw line. You also get 12 from Trent Sicily off the bench, which is nice. 9 points from Tucker DeVries. Again, a quote-unquote quiet night for him. Shooting was not good for him tonight. You mentioned Enright with 7, and you get a couple of straggler points there. Dorn had 1. Alexis had just the 3. But, man, how about the free throw numbers by Reed Bailey? 13 of 15. The idea that he shot 15 free throws in this game as your leading big, something we have not seen Indiana do at all this year, gets back to this point that we're talking about, is they didn't live and die by the 3, Brian. They realized, hey, Kansas State is not a massive team. I know their center got in some foul trouble there, and Indiana used a little bit of size that we do have. They said, hey, we have an advantage here. Let's take it and abuse it, and they absolutely did.
That was the theme. And when that big guy, I mean, he was humongous, by the way.
Yeah.
He's got to be 7 foot. But when he came out of the lineup, it made the paint not wide open, but they didn't have anybody Indiana was afraid of.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they didn't have anybody that honestly was very good inside the paint defensively. Yeah. Indiana got more rebounds than I thought. I don't know what the rebound total was, but they were better tonight than they were against that team from Missouri that I can't even remember what the name of the school was.
Lindenwood, who you got out-rebounded by, yes, the other night. Indiana out-rebounds Kansas State 35-28 on the final boards, and you out-rebound them 11-8 on the offensive rebounds, and you get 11-4 second-chance points. So
that I'm guessing that the not-so-friendly practice after the Lindenwood game had something to do with that.
I would say so, yeah.
So, hey, you got to improve, and sometimes you learn the hard way, and maybe a few stairs as part of that. But it's part of it. You know, you learn. And they obviously took the knowledge from practice and probably a garbage film session that you might want to burn, and they got better in the next game against a better opponent. Yeah. That is a really odd combination. I did not expect that tonight.
And how about yeah, and that goes to the effort that we're going to talk about here, kind of cheating ahead a little bit on likes and dislikes. Again, we'll get to that after the break. But that's the most effort in terms of one-on-one defense, on-ball defense, diving on the floor, even cutting with or without the basketball on offense, running up and down in transition on both ends. That's the most effort that I've seen from an Indiana team in, 7, 8, 10 years. Like, literally. We're talking like long time since I've seen an Indiana team from start to finish just flat out get after it. The idea that you were able to put Conor Enright on the nation's leading scorer, who still got his, okay, Haggerty still got 16 points, but my God, he had to earn it. 7 of 17 from the floor, only 2 made free throws, and really had to work for it. I mean, the effort all around, Brian, just jumps off the page from this Indiana team and jumps off the film too.
They did a good job of hedging whenever he was around the ball. Everybody else are like, if they beat us, so what? That guy can't beat us. And he got most of his points in the second half after they were down. Yeah. Now, he missed a few shots. You need a little bit of luck because if a guy like that gets hot early, it's going to be a 25-point night. Yeah. It is what it is. They stuck with him. Enright, again, he's not going to be compared to Steve Alford anytime soon, okay? But at the same time, defensively, he is the most annoying gnat in the gym.
Yes.
That's what he is. He's a gnat. He's the guy that everybody hates on the other team and their fan base loathes. Yeah. He's the most annoying guy.
And he feeds off of that.
Oh, yeah. He likes it when people are not happy with, like, he's that guy. He's the Mr. Energy. And he'll shoot it once in a while. He's finally doing that.
Yeah.
But overall, he's a passer. He's a defensive guy, and he's a team player. In Indiana, compared to especially the last half dozen or so years, they got plenty of shooters. They need guys that do that. It's just the opposite of what they've been. And he's the glue guy that makes it work. And tonight he got a defensive – I'm sure he saw that. He's like, oh, boy, this could be a rough night. But he did a pretty good job, and they switched a few times. Big guys did what they could when they were on him. He didn't have any free looks, really, at the basket. Like, usually guys like that find a way to get some dunks and easy. He didn't have any of those. He had to earn them.
Yeah. Indiana defeats Kansas State 86-69, getting their second P5 win on the season after beating Marquette. You get one at home against Kansas State. We'll take a break, come back, and do likes and dislikes. We do it every show. Drop yours in the YouTube comments. We want to hear from you. Things you liked, things you didn't, things you want to see more of, things you don't want to see more of. We do likes and dislikes right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. College football rolls on, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's really nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I've seen amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games, even Indiana and Purdue, for as low as $25 at times. So you can do that right now. If you want to make that last-minute call, that last-minute decision, go sit in the cold and be a part of awesome football weather in West Lafayette. You can do that. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, we continue on with this live edition of Locked On Hoosiers. I'm Jacob Goins, host of this show. Brian Smith, he is the host of the Portal Podcast, part of our Locked On Podcast Network. So be sure you check him out. He's talking all things Portal, NIL, recruiting every single day. Of course, I'm talking all things Indiana every single day as Indiana defeats Kansas State 86-69 inside of Assembly Hall, and it's everybody's favorite. It's likes and it's dislikes. And we already talked a little bit about the effort, but I have to start with that again. I loved the effort by this Indiana team from several different guys, again, getting on the floor, one-on-one defense, up and down the floor in transition. But man, Conor Enright just has to get the player of the game because he did his best against PJ Haggerty. Brian, you said it. He's just a pest. He's annoying. And he almost he embodies what an Indiana basketball player is. And Darren DeVries has talked about how if you don't know his name, you will. If you're not a fan of him, you will be. I think tonight Conor Enright gained a lot of fans in the IU world because of the effort that he put on the floor tonight.
Yeah, Conor Enright, I'm not saying he's ever going to be like my favorite player. I'm not saying like Reed Bailey and some of these other guys are either, but the way they work together, all of that is a like for me. Because it seemed like, okay, one guy starts scoring, they concentrate on him, then it goes to somebody else. And Conor Enright was always in the middle. He didn't care if he was passing, shooting, defending, rebounding, stealing the ball, keeping the ball alive. He was the one constant name that the announcers were talking about. Mm-hmm. Again, he's never going to be IU's leading scorer with 22. No. Okay. But he is the straw that stirs the drink sometimes, especially defensively. To draw the number one scorer in the nation, you got to be able to play defense because nobody's going to have a good night against that kid. But at the same time, you've got to at least take a shot or two away. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe. And he did. And he made him frustrated. And to be honest, K-State's players were taken back. They thought they were going to get some at him, and they didn't. And it really stymied him. That's why they were down 20-4. That score still blows me. Like Indiana just kicked their butt in the first 10 minutes, and it set the stage for the basketball game really thereafter.
Yeah, so that's a big like, I think, for us, especially in the fan base as a whole.
Yeah.
Dislike for me, again, we just kind of go rapid fire here, back and forth. You look at the stats, right? Talk about the turnovers that you forced on defense. Kansas State had 19, but Brian, this team for Indiana, you can't have 17 turnovers in a game like this against a average defensive team by Kansas
You're
State.
being
One that,
nice. They're
yeah,
not average.
I mean, for a team that wasn't just pesty on the on-ball defense, and a lot of those were unforced turnovers. I mean, Lamar Wilkerson, I remember, had the one where he was just coming across half court and threw it to nobody. I mean, how many of those did Indiana have tonight? And oh my God, that had to be the most travels I've ever seen in a basketball game in my entire life. You look at the NBA where they never call it, and you look at this game tonight, they probably called 15 travels in this game.
And unfortunately, they could have called a couple others too. I don't know why both teams were really poor handling.
It was horrible. Oh, it was horrible.
And if Indiana had any rhythm with ball handling tonight, they hit triple digits.
Yeah, probably.
Because Kansas State's defense stinks. Indiana's unforced travels and throwing the ball away on wide ball turnovers had to be a 10. I mean, if you're playing a Big Ten team tonight, that's an L. And you won by almost 20. That's how weird this game was, because you hit a bunch of tough shots and you took the ball to the basket and you were more physical getting loose ball. Like, I don't know what the loose ball stat was. That's a like for me. Indiana won it. I don't know what it was, but they won it.
Yep.
My one dislike is after they got up 20-4 and they completely put it on cruise control.
Yeah.
You do that again in a big team like Illinois, Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State. Not only is that an L, it could end up being double digits in the other direction. So they got to figure that out.
I'll tell you what I like is something I mentioned for Reed Bailey specifically, but I'll talk about it as the team as a whole, is the free throw shooting, right? You get to the line 29 times in this game, 29, and you knock down 22 of them. You knock down 76% of your free throws as a team, you're doing something right, and get there nearly 30 times. That's going to win you a lot of games, or if nothing else, it's going to keep you in a lot of games, Brian. You talk about all these Big Ten matchups that Indiana's going to be in against top 10, 15, 20, 25 teams. Free throws will keep you around. And whether that's Tucker DeVries, who, again, didn't have a great night, you could call that a dislike if you want. But the fact that Indiana won without him basically was nice. He hit his first bucket with 15 minutes to play in the basketball game, and it was a floater off an offensive rebound or something. I mean, you were able to use other people other than him, but the free throws are where I want to highlight, because, man, that's a skill, that's a mindset, that's a game plan for Indiana. And if you go up against teams that are bigger than you, cool, go at them, get to the line, put them in foul trouble. That's what happened to Kansas State tonight. I would love to see Indiana continue to do that when they get into Big Ten play.
Yeah, I hope the effort tonight is matched. What's the word I'm looking for? With a little bit more civility in terms of handling the basketball. In other words, don't travel 23 times or whatever they really did. It should have been called for.
Yeah.
If you just handle the ball a little better, which is so odd, because that's pretty much Indiana's straight. They had a couple games this year in a row. They didn't have 10 turnovers.
Yeah. I mean, that's been one of the better strengths of the team, is not turning the basketball up. This is the worst by far that you've had.
I wonder if it's like the lineup changed a little bit tonight, especially like Sicily was obviously a part of it.
Yeah.
He's not a ball handler, but he wasn't the problem either. I don't know what the deal was. It'd be different if it was a team that played pressure man defense. They never did. Their defense is mid at best. Like for a Big 12 team, that's not an upper half Big 12 team to me, because they're going to get murdered when they play teams that can play real defense. But Indiana just got sloppy. You put that in on the sidebar for those of you listening to this. Our little notes section. Great effort, but still sloppy. That is 100%. So,
yeah,
this is one of those things where the coaches can have fun in both directions. I'm cool with that.
Of the 36 total turnovers in this game, Brian, 13 of them came from two players. PJ Haggerty had 6 for Kansas State. Tate Conaway had 7 for Indiana. So if you take those two guys away, it wasn't as bad, I guess. But my goodness, 13 turnovers between two players, that's horrible. I mean, that's That's bad, Brian. And I know Conway handled the ball well tonight. I even talked about him earlier, and other than the turnover numbers, he's a like for me because he was aggressive with the basketball. And you saw so many times where he just sliced right through the defense, and Kansas State had nobody there to stop him. But brother, you can't turn it over 7 times. I'm sorry. You just can't do it. And so, great effort, but yes, it's still sloppy. Lots of likes, few dislikes in there. Love how you made it difficult on Kansas State. They made some tough shots, but man, they didn't have a whole lot of open ones. They shot 42% from the floor. One of the better 3-point shooting teams in the country, only gets 20 of them off. They make 8 of them, so their percentage will be solid, but they normally shoot 35 or 40 of them like Indiana does. And overall, I think Indiana has to be happy with their performance. And you look at what's coming up on the schedule, right? You got Bethune-Cookman coming in. That is Saturday mid-afternoon. And then Bethune-Cookman's not bad now. That's not a bad team.
Look, if we have to even think about worrying about that, the next 2-3 games after that are going to be horrific.
Okay. Bethune-Cookman's a tournament team. All right. We don't have to stress and think that it's going to go horribly, but they're still a solid team.
With Louisville and Kentucky coming up, I have no interest in Bethune-Cookman. I'm sorry.
My man Brian is still scarred from the Lindenwood game. This guy is not good. He's still scarred from whatever Indiana did in that game where he hosted the post-game show. You got Bethune-Cookman. You go on the road to Minnesota to open up Big Ten play. Louisville in Indianapolis. Penn State at home, and then on the road at Kentucky. Brian, how do you feel about those games? We'll wrap it up there with some of those games coming up in the non-con schedule.
Oddly, I think the Minnesota game is the most important. They're not going to be as talented probably as a couple. I know they're not as talented as Kentucky. That's low-hanging fruit. Louisville's pretty good, but are they great? I don't know. And can Indiana, do I expect Indiana to win at Kentucky? No. To be real, I'm curious how they compete in that game. Louisville, Minnesota are the ones you've got to start stealing games like that if you're going to get to the target. You got to beat one of those. Penn State's a team. I mean, they're okay.
Yeah.
How does Indiana compete with teams with more size? There's a lot of little things that I want to see. And some of these teams, especially after tonight's film, I guarantee everybody's going to play on-ball pressure with Indiana. I know I would. Because they gave up 17 turnovers without it. So you're probably going to see some press too. I would imagine too. But I think that all these games, by the time we're done with Kentucky, we'll know if Indiana has a chance to make tournament.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah. TJ, I want to put this up here really quick. He brings up a dislike. Might be a little too quick to heave from 40 feet at times with plenty of shot clock left. Yeah. Tate Conway had a couple of those. We know Wilkerson's willing to rip it from half court. We know that. Tucker has that a couple of times too. That's a good point, TJ. That's a good point. Indiana, that was in that weird moment, Brian, or lull of time where they just settled, got comfortable. They're like, whatever, we're winning. Whatever, it's fine. And then all of a sudden it was like, crap, here comes Kansas State. They hit a couple of shots. Here's a 7-0 run, 10-0 run. It's like, okay, now we gotta get back to playing Indiana basketball. So that's a good point from TJ. Haley says loving the defense. Absolutely. Indiana defensively was phenomenal. Enright and Bailey breakout game. Yes, absolutely. Enright defensively, Bailey offensively. And if you can get Reed Bailey and Sam Alexis to play at their peak, right? We've seen bits and pieces from them. They haven't done it together yet, which may or may not be possible. Watch out for Indiana, at least in the front court. That's going to be a really fun duo. So all things considered, Indiana wins 86-69. You get another P5 win. You'll move up in KenPom. I was going to see if it's updated with this game. If not, we will go ahead and get out of here. It is Indiana up to 20th in KenPom, Brian. So I know it's early, but that's pretty good for Indiana, right behind Kansas and in front of North Carolina. So take that for what it is, I guess. Yeah,
I will gladly take anything top 30. To be at 20 this early, I'm not sure what it'll be after the Kentucky game, but for now I'll take it. So this is a good start.
I think Kansas State was 48 or 50 when the game started. They're 52 afterwards. So they didn't go down a ton, but Indiana moved up, I think 5. I think Indiana was 25th to start and moved up inside the top 20 of KenPom. So good things are happening for Indiana. They'll take on Bethune-Cookman early Saturday afternoon inside of Assembly Hall. He is Brian Smith, the host of the Portal Podcast. Be sure you check him out. Just search, same way you find Locked On Hoosiers, you can find the Portal as well. Just search the Portal. He's got you covered all day, every day for the transfer portal, NIL, recruiting things, and it's a busy time for that right now, especially with coaching changes in college football. So be sure that you check him out. He's with me every single post-game show for Indiana basketball as well. And I'm Jacob Goins, the host of Locked On Hoosiers. We are your daily spot for all things Indiana athletics coverage, including this week for Thanksgiving with Purdue on Friday. Hopefully a Big Ten championship game next week on the football side, and we'll continue to cover basketball as well. Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.